Check one done.
She needs lanyards.
For what?
For his masks. And so there were two of them sitting on the TV set, but I found some in my drawer. So I'm gonna go down a little early.
Okay.
Watchdog Morning Show with Howard Monroe.
$3.5 trillion. That's the cost of the reckless spending plan President Biden and the Washington extremists are rushing through Congress. Their socialist plan will bankrupt America and force West Virginia taxpayers to foot the bill for abortions, even painful late-term abortions. Thankfully, Senator Joe Manchin is standing strong, opposing this reckless spending spree and taxpayer-funded abortions. But Senator Manchin is under enormous pressure from Washington liberals to cave to their extreme agenda. Biden and Pelosi are intent on forcing West Virginians to pay for abortion on demand, even up to the moment of birth when babies can feel excruciating pain. West Virginians need to thank Manchin for standing strong. Call Senator Joe Manchin at 202-224-3954. Thank Manchin for opposing Biden and the socialists in Congress. Tell him to stand strong against their plan to bankrupt America and force West Virginians to pay for abortions. Paid for by Susan B. Anthony List.
Are you traveling? Working a little bit too much? Is your fur baby starting to get a little shaggy? Let Dirty Paws be your one-stop shop for all of your pet care needs. Stop in and see us at 202 18th Street or give us a call at 304-639-7754 to schedule your appointments for dog grooming, doggy daycare, and dog boarding today.
You took the first step and quit smoking, but even former smokers may still be at risk for lung cancer. That's why SaveByTheScan.org wants you to know about a new low-dose CT scan that can detect lung cancer early. It takes only 60 seconds and could save your life. You took the first step, now take the next. Visit SaveByTheScan.org for a simple quiz to see if you're eligible and talk to your doctor about screening. SaveByTheScan.org is brought to you by the American Lung Association's Lung Force Initiative and the Ad Council.
Introducing our new redesigned 7 News app. Our new app features a sleek, modern design, an easy-to-navigate home screen with quick access to local news content, and a localized weather forecast. Subscribing to notifications is easier, and with one tap, you have access to recent push notifications. There are more ways to watch and find video. To get the new WTRF 7 News app, Just update the latest version or download the WTRF 7 News app in your Apple or Google Play Store by searching WTRF.
Now, during the Jim Robinson Ford Lincoln Toyota Pre-Owned Super Sale, select from over 80 vehicles in stock starting under $5,000. Most are local trades, many with one owner. Hurry to Jim Robinson at the Highlands, home of lifetime powertrain protection. Now, during the Jim Robinson Ford Lincoln Toyota Pre-Owned Super Sale, select from over 80 vehicles in stock starting under $5,000. Most are local trades, many with one owner. Hurry to Jim Robinson at the Highlands, home of lifetime powertrain protection.
Hello, everyone. From the Watchdog, I am the Storm Tracker, Darnell Foster, with a look at your local weather forecast for your Football Friday. Mostly cloudy with occasional showers. The daytime high near 57. Mostly cloudy with a few showers remaining, with an overnight low of 46. Clouds and sunshine mixing for your Saturday, a cool day with a high near 57. Have yourself a great day, everyone. From the Watchdog, I'm Darnell Foster.
The views and opinions expressed on the following program are not necessarily those of this station or its sponsors.
On air, online, on demand, and on video. This is the Watchdog Morning Show with Howard Monroe.
It's 50 degrees at the Wheeling, Ohio County Airport, 52 here at my home studios, 52 at the Robinson Auto Group Studios, downtown Wheeling. In the heart of the Ohio Valley, it's really overcast outside. Rain is in the forecast, although I won't say it's raining, but it really looks like really dark, potentially rain clouds today. We are going to expect at least a stray sprinkle or two this morning, and more better. Oh, please, Howard, you didn't just say more better, did you? Yes, I did, and it's a bad way to say it. Can't believe I just said more better.
It looks like nighttime outside.
Yes, it does. A better chance of rain this afternoon, but it's dark. Yeah, it is. It does look like nighttime outside. It's dark and dreary. Zach Petty from the Big Seven in his written forecast this morning calls it a blah kind of day. So be prepared to be blah over the course of the day today. It was a dark and stormy night last night, and that was one of the big things we talked about this morning. Good news is I don't think there was too much damage of any kind done. Minor power outages, but not a lot of them. So although it was kind of an intense night there for about an hour here in the Upper Ohio Valley, tornado warnings were around. All of my alarms were going off. The phone alarm went off, and the TV EAS alarm is going off, and the radio station's EAS is going off, and my and the Amazon personal assistant is telling me you have a tornado alert in your area, and even my Ring doorbell, which I have, camera and the Ring doorbell. Even my Ring doorbell was sending me messages of bad weather. So it was just for about an hour. It was kind of fun. Anyways, it was a dark and stormy night last night. Elsewhere, we have been talking about Joe Manchin every day. Joe Manchin, right? You remember earlier this week, Joe Manchin called BS on a report that he had a plan to possibly bolt the Democratic Party. He aggressively said, capital B, capital U, capital L, not true. Politico magazine now says actually Manchin did make that threat to leadership, and in the words of the Politico article, no one accepted his offer to leave the party. 3 Maryland counties are asking to join West Virginia, apparently because we're a better political fit. Stephen Adams, the Ogden newspaper, comes in later on to tell us what's likely to happen. It's Friday. Newspaper editor John McCabe and I will have our weekly roundtable on local and statewide news, and on the Friday Funnies, some Halloween stand-up comedy plus late night last night. That's what I have for you. What do you have for me? The text lines are open. 304-214-1600, 304-214-1600. Feel free to use them if you'd like to. Use it if you would like to. Or you can use the CityNet hotline. Had a couple of calls this morning already at 304-232-8255, 304-232-TALK. And we're happy to get you on the line and share some thoughts on the phone line if you'd like to. Things we are talking about, things we haven't been talking about, but you think we should. We're here to chat about that. Should tell you we have a new opinion poll up at watchdognetwork.com. Try to change it out about once a week. We did a Manchin poll last week. Here's the new opinion poll, watchdognetwork.com. Should businesses and hospitals impose vaccine mandates on employees? And we know the legislature just put in a lot of, not a lot, actually 2 specific exemptions, medical and health, or medical and religion, and delineated how those exemptions are to be handled. A lot of businesses, hospitals in particular, are already in the midst of doing vaccine mandates. So should businesses and hospitals impose vaccine mandates on their employees? It's a simple yes or no question. Vote as you choose to, and love to see what you have to say. Right now it's 2-1, literally 2-1, saying yes, businesses should impose mandates for their employees. That's the new opinion poll up online at watchdognetwork.com. 8:14, 14 after the hour here on a Friday morning. If it's a Friday, Biff, I'm guessing it must mean we've got football coming up.
We do have football coming up tonight and tomorrow as well. So
we'll start things off today with the Friday. Well, we'll really start things off with the Bill DeFabio Variety Show. And Bill will be doing a lot of talk about coaches, interviewing coaches and interviewing analysts and previewing not just football but other of the weekend sports activities during the Bill DeFabio Variety Show. Then the Friday afternoon walkthrough, Quaker Steak and Lube, Friday afternoon walkthrough, 3 to 5 o'clock. Jerry and Mike Anthony and not Mike Anthony, Scott Nolte, and who else is there? Who else? Just came out of my mouth. Sorry about that.
the old you're going back here, Howard. That was the old team at Channel 7. The guys without ties.
Yeah, right. Okay. I'm sorry. I'm
yes.
sorry. Well, let's see. So far in the last 15 minutes, I've said more better. And I promoted a guy who's not even part of the team anymore. So it's a Friday, Biff. All I can tell you is I'm waiting until 10 o'clock and I'm done, right?
Yeah, that's
anyways, the whole gang will be there. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, Scott Nolte, the Hall of Famer, Coach Heinerman, Seth, and Brett. All the crew will be in, and who knows who else might join them. You never know, but the guys will be in.
That's the fun part about the walkthrough.
Yes, you never know who's going to show up.
Then we've got a couple of games for you this evening on each of our individual stations, WKKX and WVOI, a couple of our regular spotlight games.
Yes, and please note there are going to be 2 things to note with the Wheeling Central game tonight. Beaver Local is at Wheeling Central. That game is not at Wheeling University. It is going to be at West Liberty University tonight. So Beaver Local and Wheeling Central at West Liberty, and the game time has been changed. So please tell your friends, tell your relatives, tell your neighbors, tell your out-of-town people that are tuning in to listen. Beaver Local and Wheeling Central is 7:30 tonight, not 7. So at 7 o'clock, don't panic when you turn the radio on and Central's not on. It's a 7:30 kickoff.
Where's the Central game?
Yes.
Where's the Central game?
Yes, not 7.
Where's the Central game?
Howard, you say that, but I guarantee you at 7 o'clock when I'm sitting here, I'm going to get a call that's going to say, where is the Central game? Don't you like Central anymore? Why aren't you? I mean, I'll get them all at 7 o'clock. It never fails.
I got you.
So let your friends and everybody know, Beaver Local at Wheeling Central, 7:30 tonight at West Liberty. That game on AM 1600 and 98.1 FM. Morgantown at John Marshall, that is a 7 o'clock kickoff on AM 1370 and 97.7 FM. So Morgantown JM at 7, Beaver Local Wheeling Central 7:30.
When the games are done, and again, please, 7:30. Biff's got more important things to do than have people call and go, where's the Wheeling Central game? So be patient. Be patient. It'll be there. But when the games are done, Biff has got the fifth quarter scoreboard show for you. You can help him with that. You can call. You don't want to call and say, where's the Central game? But you can call and give scores, or you can text our text line and give scores. if you're out and about at any of the games in the Upper Ohio Valley tonight. And then the fifth quarter scoreboard show will come on right after the games are done, keeping you up to date on the scores around the Upper Ohio Valley. When Biffy gets done, as always, he places the call down to Metro News Central and wakes up Fred Persinger and Dave Jecklin, and they give you the scores around West Virginia on high school game night all the way up until midnight. So we've got full slate of activity for you today. Tomorrow, as always on Saturday, again, a very busy sports day all day long Saturday too, Biffy.
Yes, it is, and we start off at 8 o'clock with the Metro News High School football scoreboard. That'll be all the West Virginia scores from tonight. You'll be able to hear them tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock. And then at 8:30, the ONN Sports Magazine from 8:30 till 9. And then from 9 to 11:30, the Harris Law Office's Saturday Morning Sports Huddle. And that'll be until, again, 11:30. And then at noon, we have Martins Ferry at Bel Air playing for the Sparky Trophy. And I believe
Battle for the Sparky.
Yes, and I believe it is the 118th meeting between Martins Ferry and Bel Air. So we'll have that game. We'll have that game tomorrow at noon. And then college football starting at 4 o'clock. The pregame for West Virginia at TCU. Game time at 7:30. And then Ohio State on the road. They will be taking on Indiana. Pregame at 6. Kickoff at 7:30 for the Buckeyes and the Hoosiers.
All of that's coming up all weekend long here on the Watchdog. We are your home for sports in the Ohio Valley on the week. Well, really not just the weekends. We've got all kinds of things on throughout the week as well. So stick with us. When you need to know sports, we've got it for you here on the Watchdog. It's 8:21 after the hour. We are here for entertaining you as well. We've got some entertainment news, and it's a Friday, so we've got the Friday Funnies, and that's all coming up next here on the Watchdog Morning Show.
This is Bill DeFabio, your host of the Variety Show with...
Biff, I can't remember. Did I send you the Salacious Celebrity Gossip? Okay, I think it was from yesterday's post. I downloaded it, and I was going to send it to you, but I don't think I did. Okay, all right. All right, you can come back out with entertainment theme for the bumper music. I'll do a couple of entertainment stories, and then we'll do Salacious Gossip, and we'll do the Friday Funnies. Okay? Okay, thank you.
Active duty military and first responders. Quaker Steak and Lube voted Best Wings USA.
Hey man, what can I get you?
Yeah, can I have 2 Coors Lights?
You got it. Hey Mike! I need 2 Coors Lights!
Sure thing. With a taste as cold as the Rockies, only Coors Light gives you refreshment every time.
Here you go.
Thanks, Mike. Doing a great job. All right, 2 ice-cold Coors Lights.
That's the coldest beer I've ever had.
Hey, they don't call it the world's most refreshing beer for nothing.
Okay, be honest with me. Do you really have the Rocky Mountains in your beer cooler?
You don't believe it? Check it out.
Man, that's pretty amazing.
I know, right? I can't believe it myself sometimes. I mean, this cooler is only 3 feet wide.
Coors Light, the world's most refreshing beer. Coors Brewing Company, Golden, Colorado. With great beer comes great responsibility.
1 in 3 adults has prediabetes. 1 in 3. That means it could be you, your football buddy, your football buddy, or you, your best man, your worst man, you, your dog walker, your cat jogger. While 1 in 3 adults has prediabetes, with early diagnosis, prediabetes can be reversed. Take the risk test at doihaveprediabetes.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council and its pre-diabetes awareness partners.
For all of your IT needs, visit OmniPerforms.com. Omni Strategic Technologies, the only IT company that the Watchdog trusts.
Hey there, what are you doing today? Would whatever it is be easier with faster, more reliable home internet? If you said yes, we have good news. Viasat offers high-speed satellite internet wherever you live, even if cable providers don't go there. So you can get online today and tomorrow. Go to Viasat.com/internet now and save up to $150 on select home plans. That's Viasat.com/internet now. Minimum 24-month service term. Service is not available in all areas. See Viasat.com for additional terms and conditions.
We're a farm store, a family store, a look what I found store. We're a store made for real people and some real beasts. We're a hey neighbor kind of store and an everyday low price store. We're Rural King, and we're working hard to be your favorite store. These deals are so hot, we're starting Black Friday now with Providence Conventional Green Antifreeze. Just $2.99 after rebate, now through December 31st.
West Virginia Outdoors is the Mountain State's only hook and bullet radio show, dedicated to the more than 250,000 hunters and anglers across the state. Award-winning host Chris Lawrence has been tracking down hunting and fishing stories for more than 25 years.
Went in behind a little birch tree at its head. I reached down and got the bow positioned and found its horns and dropped down and shot it in the neck.
Whether it's hunting and fishing news,
it tracks real super well, but not with a 60-pound carp tied to the side.
Or just compelling stories about the enjoyment of the great outdoors.
How close did you let him get in before you let fly on him?
He was about 18 yards, Chris. He got turned in the right angle there, and I touched off the trigger. And when I hit him, he ran kind of up the hill, which scared me at first.
West Virginia Outdoors covers it all. Saturday mornings at 7:06 a.m. And for your daily fix, Outdoors Today brings you 2.5 minutes of news and notes from the woods and water every weekday morning. No one covers the great outdoors like Chris Lawrence. And Metro News, the voice of West Virginia.
He rambles, he rants, and sometimes he sings. The Watchdog Morning Show with Howard Monroe continues.
Well, let's get some entertainment news in here on a Friday morning at 8:26. It's not a funny story at all. Alec Baldwin discharged a prop firearm. It was not a real firearm. It was a prop they were using as a gun, but it did have ammunition in it. They were filming in New Mexico on a movie. He discharged the prop firearm and killed the director of photography and wounding the director. The Santa Fe Sheriff's Department says that they questioned Alec Baldwin and released him. No arrests or charges have been filed. The investigation remains open. Witnesses are still being interviewed. Newspaper out that way says that Baldwin was seen outside the sheriff's offices, distraught and in tears. And I quote that there. The director of photography, 42-year-old Halna Hutchins, died at the University of New Mexico Hospital in Albuquerque. So a prop firearm set off by Alec Baldwin kills the director of photography. Netflix having some problems this week, last couple of weeks actually. Netflix employees staged a walkout on Wednesday, protesting how the company handled the latest comedy special from Dave Chappelle. Dave Chappelle's latest comedy special, called The Closer, had a number of jokes about trans and LGBTQ people in it. And that was taken to be very offensive by the trans and LGBTQ community, and they have been really making a ruckus over this ever since. I would point out that Chappelle, who himself is African American, also makes fun of African Americans. Sometimes I think we forget what comedy is supposed to be about. I have not heard this, though, so I want to be careful. It may be particularly offensive. I don't know. But I just, in general, comedy is designed to offend. To me, that's what it's about. So those who walked off the show walked off their job, read out a list of requests that they want the Netflix company to do, including investing more in trans and non-binary content and programming, taking down all posters and murals of Dave Chappelle inside the Netflix Workplace, and they have actually a whole long list of these things there. Chappelle himself says, look, I'll sit down and talk to him. I'm happy to have a conversation. He says he will not be doing any more LGBTQ jokes until they can come to some kind of a discussion and conclusion. His spokesperson says Dave stands by his art, but there will be no more jokes about transgender until we can all laugh together. So that's a bit of a controversy for Netflix. Now, let's check some other entertainment news from ABC.
ABC Entertainment News. If you're looking for something to watch this weekend, Ron's Gone Wrong hits theaters. Hi! The animated story focuses on social media, technology, and perhaps the scariest thing of all, being in middle school.
They're picking my family off one by one.
Dune hit theaters and streaming last night, and streaming on Apple TV Plus, it's the new alien drama Invasion.
I think you're rude.
A couple of shows returning Sunday to HBO, including season 11 of Curb Your Enthusiasm. At the premiere earlier this week in Los Angeles, star and creator Larry David said you won't see the pandemic on screen.
We chose to live in a non-COVID world this season. I don't want everybody walking around with masks on and social distancing and things like that. I don't think it would have been funny.
Also returning Sunday night on HBO, Issa Rae's critically acclaimed series Insecure will debut its 5th and final season. It wasn't a great year for touring, but Billboard says Guns N' Roses still managed to make $50 million on the road this year. And actor Jeff Goldblum was 69 today. Jason Nathanson, ABC News, Hollywood.
And to wrap up the entertainment report, let's check some of the salacious celebrity gossip that's been running around town this week.
It's your salacious celebrity scoop. Lauren Moraski dishes out this week's tabloid news.
The tabloids are out, and here's what you need to know. Kourtney Kardashian's recent engagement to Travis Barker isn't helping smooth things over with her ex, Scott Disick. An insider tells Us Weekly he feels very distant and feels like an outcast now more than ever. Meanwhile, the National Enquirer claims that Tom Cruise is torn up over his alleged recent split from Haley Atwell, so much so that he's dealing with it by eating 3 gut-busting meals a day. First of all, it's unclear if these two were actually ever officially dating, and 2, there's no confirmation on any major weight gain. This week, Star Magazine claims that Meghan Markle is eyeing a lucrative $200 million infomercial deal. Yep, she's already got deals with Netflix and Spotify, but no word yet on any new partnership ventures. And finally, In Touch sounds very out of touch this week. The tabloid claims that Chris Martin dumped longtime girlfriend Dakota Johnson just hours before her recent birthday dinner. We're suspect of this, as Chris recently publicly dedicated Coldplay's My Universe to Dakota while performing in London. That's your salacious celebrity scoop. We'll catch you next week after we dig through the tabloid trash.
And that's the gossip of the week. That's the entertainment news for the moment. Let's wrap up this segment with some comedy. It's Halloween time, so we'll get a little Seinfeld comedy on Halloween in here, and we'll go right from Jerry into the news, and then Stephen Adams with us on the other side. It's 8:32. This is the Friday Funnies.
Remember those last few Halloweens? Getting a little too old for it. Just kind of going through the motions. Bing bong, come on, lady, let's go. Halloween, doorbells, candy, let's pick up the pace in there. You come to the door, they always ask you those same stupid questions. What are you supposed to be? I'm supposed to be done by now. You want to move it along, the Three Musketeers? I got 18 houses on this block alone. You just hit the bag, we hit the road. That's the routine. Let's just pick it up. Sometimes they give you that little white bag twisted on the top. You know that's going to be some crap candy. It's got to have those official Halloween markings on it. Oh, lady, wait a second. What is this, the orange marshmallow shaped like a big peanut? Do me a favor, you keep that one.
The WTRF Channel 7 News Update is brought to you by Thomas Auto Centers, Mall Road, St. Clairsville. Get the best deal at Thomas Auto Centers.
Now it's time for your...
Should have Steven at 8:40. Alrighty, thank you.
There is no secret. Like, how do we get better? We certainly got to move people better, right? We've got to make sure our footwork and hand placement are sound. Our run reads at running back are better. Our perimeter blocking is sound. Like, it really is, and I'm not dodging the question. It's just, there's not just one thing. You know, there's things we've done better up front. There's things we're doing better in areas, but until we tie it all together and own it as a staff and as players to make sure it stays that way and we're not just saying if. You know what I mean? I think that's what, when you're close or you don't finish a game and things, everybody, I think it's a scary thing to say, well, if, and well, if don't matter. We've got to get it done. And I think that tying our offensive line together with our running back, breeding confidence, and making sure we're not saying if we would have finished here, if we would have made this read, like it all adds up and compounds itself. And before you know it, you're telling a tale of maybes and ifs, and we just can't, you know. So I think more than anything over these 2 weeks, it's been a commitment to saying, let's get it done. And when we don't, we just got to make sure that there's a higher percentage of us getting it done to make sure we find yards on the ground.
And just how improved they are, well, we'll all see together tomorrow night. We invite you to join us here on the Mountaineer Sports Network. Pregame coverage begins at 4 o'clock with the Go Mart Mountaineer Tailgate Show kickoff set for 7:30. That is today's Mountaineer Report, brought to us by Kroger, the official grocer of WVU Athletics. I'm Tony Caridi on the Mountaineer Sports Network from Learfield.
$3.5 trillion. That's the cost of the reckless spending plan President Biden and the Washington extremists are rushing through Congress. Their socialist plan will bankrupt America and force West Virginia taxpayers to foot the bill for abortions, even painful late-term abortions. Thankfully, Senator Joe Manchin is standing strong, opposing this reckless spending spree and taxpayer-funded abortions. But Senator Manchin is under enormous pressure from Washington liberals to cave to their extreme agenda. Biden and Pelosi are intent on forcing West Virginians to pay for abortion on demand, even up to the moment of birth when babies can feel excruciating pain. West Virginians need to thank Manchin for standing strong. Call Senator Joe Manchin at 202-224-3954. Thank Manchin for opposing Biden and the socialists in Congress. Tell him to stand strong against their plan to bankrupt America and force West Virginians to pay for abortions. Paid for by Susan B. Anthony List.
WKKX and WVLY voted coolest couple in their high school yearbook.
Miss a part of the show? Want to hear a segment again? Check out our podcast page at watchdognetwork.com. The Watchdog Morning Show with Howard Monroe continues.
Still 50 degrees at the Wheeling, Ohio County Airport. We're still looking at 52 degrees here at my home studios in the Elm Grove section of Wheeling, and 52 at the Robinson Auto Group Studios downtown Wheeling in the heart of the Ohio Valley. Really dark and overcast outside this morning. It's going to be a gray, dark, dreary day today. Could see a little bit of rain this morning. Excuse me. We'll probably see more of a pop-up shower in the afternoon. Just going to be not fully verstunk today, but not a great day either, that's for sure. Temperature probably roaming around 60, maybe a little above, a little below, before it's all over and done with. Coming up next hour, it's John McCabe, newspaper editor for the local newspapers. He and I every Friday have our roundtable as we discuss the Ohio Valley news of the week. If you've noticed in recent really months, I guess, John has finally been seeing the light and coming much more to my side of things. I mean, we have not argued nearly as much over issues because he's finally come to understand that I'm right on most of these things. And so we tend to be in much agreement. There is one of the issues of the week, however, that we are in disagreement on. So it's going to be just like the old days. We'll fight. That was kind of the hallmark of our old TV show. It was to fight. So we will fight today on at least one of the issues up on our list for the roundtable coming up in the next hour. Right now, though, let's talk about another Ogden newspaper employee, the State House reporter for the Ogden papers around West Virginia, Stephen Adams. He is here with us this morning. Stephen, good morning, sir.
Good morning, Howard. So you're going to have an argument with my boss later?
Yeah, he's finally beginning to see that. We used to fight all the time, but more and more he's become to realize, I think, that I'm right. Oh, I know, he'll say that more I've become to realize he's right, but we've been more on the same page lately. I don't know what that means, but today we got to fight. Today we'll have a fight, so that's...
Well, you two are like Kirk and like Spock and McCoy, who fight but ultimately really love each other, so...
There we go. That's exactly right. I want to talk about these Maryland things, but what a week this was for you. Man, you and Brad and Kabler and Mark, you guys had to, it was a long week with the specials, this weekend last, with that special session, right? And you never knew any given day whether you're coming back tomorrow or not.
Yeah, it really kind of took me by surprise. Of all the maps for redistricting that I figured would be the easier one to come to an agreement on, I would have told you from the beginning it would have been figuring out boundary lines for the 17 senatorial districts. I would have thought that would have been the easier lift. Sure, populations have shrunk, populations have shifted. Growth has happened in the northern part of the state, particularly in the Morgantown area. Eastern Panhandle, of course, is a powerhouse for growth. So, those areas, their boundaries are going to change to some extent. Southern West Virginia population growth has gone backwards. So, yeah, you expect some changes in the borders and that sort of thing, but I really didn't think we were going to be 10 days in still figuring this out and having nearly, different maps every day. I really thought that the Republicans on the Senate side would be in a little bit more agreement. But, of course, I got a sneak peek at their internal disagreements last month when they had that press conference in regards to the possibility of a COVID-19 special session, which they didn't have the votes for. And that seemed to carry over into this special session, not only with what happened with redistricting, but also with that COVID-19 vaccine exemption bill that passed through. There's a lot of division in that caucus, and as a result, it took a lot longer to get a map through than because you had a group of senators that were kind of trying to push their own agenda kind of quietly and whatnot. Then you had the other more moderates that were wanting to at least follow the more transparent process. So, yeah, it made for a very interesting spillover into this week. But it ended Wednesday.
It finally came to an end. First place, I'm like you. I would have thought there had to be a House map, a congressional map, and a Senate map. I never thought the Senate would be the debate. I thought that would be the fairly easy one, and I was really surprised about that. This is an example, though. I think what we saw was, internal division inside the Republican Party. I think the farther right compared to the more moderate right had some differing points of view on this, on both of those issues, as a matter of fact, the vaccine and the redistricting. But, I think back, and the Republicans have the super majority, big majority in the Senate and House for that matter. But I think back to when the Democrats controlled things and had almost all of the House and Senate were in their control. The same thing happened. The fights tended then not to be between the two parties, but inside the Democrat Party back then. And now it looks like the fights may be inside the Republican Party.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely correct, which makes sense because, as you know, the transition, particularly over the last decade, and the accelerated transition over the last 4 years of the growth in the Republican Party voter registrations, you're now seeing, I think, that now happen because a lot of those Democrats are now Republicans, and to some extent, in reality, they're more conservative than even some of the Republicans that have been in the party for a long time. And I'll give you a quick example. You've got Senate Judiciary Committee Chairman Charles Trump, who I think people would say is conservative, but I think he for the most part, is a fairly moderate conservative. On that vaccine exemption bill, you would think it would be him taking the lead on explaining that bill. If it had gone through committee in the Senate side, it probably would have gone through his committee, I would imagine. Instead, you had State Senator Eric Tarr out of Putnam County, who is the Finance Committee chairman. But not only that, he's the owner of several physical therapy businesses down in the Kanawha County, Putnam County area. And he started off as a volunteer staff member in the state Senate and worked, then ran for a seat, and now he has a pretty powerful position. And he, I would imagine, is one of the top hard right conservatives over there. And he was the one explaining that vaccine exemption bill and giving amendments to it. And things of that nature. So I think just in their own leadership and committee leadership, you're seeing that difference really kind of come across.
Will that continue? I mean, going into the next session and so on, do you think the division, and I don't mean to overplay it, I just think there's disagreement there, but that disagreement between the different sides of the Republican Party, will it begin to play itself out more, or will continue to play itself out more when the next session gets underway?
I do, and in fact, a lot of the issues that make me think that's going to get worse rather than get better have to do with that redistricting map. Now, of course, they all came to an agreement on a compromise, and even some of the Democrats joined in on that, except for the Kanawha County delegation. So that's good, but if they'd gotten the map that they wanted, it not only would have hurt some of the incumbent Democrats that remain, and keep in mind, they're down 4 incumbents going into 2020, but it would have hurt moderate Republicans too, particularly in the Kanawha County area, such as the Senate Majority Leader, Dr. Tom Tatubo, and State Senator Eric Nelson, who incidentally was not even here for the entirety of the special session. He was in Europe.
Country, right?
Yeah, he was out of the country. So I think the map that they originally, some of the more conservative members were pushing, would have probably resulted in even more to the right conservatives getting elected. And I think even now, with the map that they did land on, there's a real chance that you're going to see an effort to recruit more conservative Republicans to challenge the moderates. And I think after 2022, I think they'll have the numbers. I think the moderates won't have the numbers.
My outside assessment looking in, I'm not as close to it as you are. I think you're absolutely right. And it makes some sense. Republicans took over, what's it been, 4-6 years ago, whatever that's been. They took over the leadership, and then now they've had the supermajority. And so in the beginning, they had a handful of things that they really wanted to get done. Sort of everybody agreed on the Republican side of things, from prevailing wage to right to work and so on. So they got some of that stuff done. Now we're into more areas where there's just going to be plain disagreement amongst Republicans, just as there will be among Democrats. So it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out. I want to ask you one other question, not about this Maryland thing, and then I want to get to Maryland. But I'm sure you've been following the stories about Joe Manchin maybe bolting the Democratic Party, becoming an independent, and all that sort of stuff. Manchin said it was bull bleep with a capital B, capital U, capital L. Although Politico yesterday then says, well, actually Manchin did offer to the Senate Democrats to change parties if he was going to be an embarrassment to them, and they said no. What do you make of all this? You're pretty close to Senator Manchin. You follow him very closely. You spent time with him in D.C. not long ago.
I almost think all this is by design to some extent, and maybe that's conspiratorial thinking to a little bit, but it doesn't hurt them to try to put out that image. And I read some of the interview that Politico Playbook did with David Korn with Mother Jones, who broke the story about the possibility of Manchin switching parties, which Manchin then denied. And Korn was sort of trying to reach out to Manchin's people and had made contact with his communications people, but they had never commented back one way or another, which is usually not what they do. Normally they're pretty good about commenting on things. I feel like it gave Manchin cover the BS statement and deny it, and it also helps him in negotiations with the White House, with his fellow Democratic colleagues, putting kind of the fear of God into him. It's like, well, we want to make Joe happy. We don't want him to leave the party. And I think those additional comments that came out where he sort of kind of dropped the sort of, I feel like a rhetorical flourish that, yeah, well, I mean, if you all don't want me, I guess I could go. I think all that's part of a negotiation tactic to try to get the reconciliation plan closer to the $1.5 trillion price tag that he feels more comfortable with.
The the David Korn article in Mother Jones, it made it sound like Manchin would be leaving out of anger. The Politico piece I read seemed to suggest that Manchin would be leaving because he said he didn't want to be an embarrassment to the party. If it was too embarrassing for the party to have someone so out of their stream, he would switch to independent, still would caucus with them, but at least wouldn't be a D. Two really separate kind of reasons, I think, for it, if either one is right.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely right. Yeah, I think, and that's why I'm kind of a little doubtful that it's anything other than kind of rhetoric, more or less, to help him in these negotiations. But, I mean, if he were going to do anything, switching to independent would be the more likely position than switching to Republican, which I continue to see that get pushed occasionally out there. And anyone that knows Joe Manchin knows that's not going to happen. And I don't think the Republicans in this state, I think they would have a conniption fit if he did that. So I don't see that. Could he do something sort of similar to what Bernie Sanders does now, which is, being independent to caucus with the Democrats? It's possible. And it could be real possible after 2022, depending on what the Senate makeup looks like.
Right. Yeah, people ask me all the time. I did a national radio show yesterday. And every couple of years it comes up, will Manchin become a Republican? I say the answer to that is unequivocally always no. He will not become a Republican. Could he become an independent? That's a little different story. But Manchin I just don't ever see him actually switching parties to the GOP. All right, let me ask you the question I wanted to talk to you about today, because it seems to me, Stephen, politics is imbued in everything we do anymore. So if I understand it correctly, we have 3 Western Maryland counties who would like to become part of West Virginia, and it seems to me, I guess, it's because they think we're simply more politically attuned to them than their own state is?
Yeah, that's basically the size of it, but let's be real clear about what it is. We're talking about 5 state lawmakers in Maryland representing Garrett, Allegheny, and what's the other one? I can't even, Washington County. Sorry, I don't even have the Maryland counties memorized in my head. We're talking about 5 lawmakers, so Republican lawmakers, and those 3 counties do tend to be more Republican than the rest of Maryland for sure. So, and being in the Panhandle, we know what it's like that, being in the Northern Panhandle, being in the Eastern Panhandle. The Panhandles tend to be a little disconnected from the mothership sometimes, and they have the same problem in Maryland. But yeah, they wanted to see if West Virginia would be interested in taking them, and that's the first step. of a lot of steps they have to go through. It sounds like they're going to try to get a referendum on the ballot, maybe in 2022, to gauge the interest of people in those counties. I would imagine they might have a different feeling about wanting to join West Virginia, but we'll see. And then it takes literally the state assembly in Maryland voting to allow them to leave the state, and then it's going to take a vote of Congress to do the same. And I find those votes probably a pretty heavy lift to happen. So there's a lot of steps they got to go through to get this. But I'll tell you what, I mean, you're talking about 250,000 people in those three counties. If you added Hagerstown and Cumberland, they would both be join the 10 largest cities in the state. With Hagerstown, I think, would be ranked third if they were to join. So it would be the Eastern Panhandle on steroids.
But again, first place, there are just simply tons of bureaucratic hurdles to overcome. Even if the people of the counties wanted to do this, as you point out, this is some of the lawmakers right now saying it. There's a lot of things. Hoppy Kirchhoff wrote a commentary about it today, and he makes a good point. There's a lot of stuff that needs to be, considered. I mean, from your state universities to just all kinds of things that would change dramatically for these counties were they come into West Virginia. I suppose the current Republican leadership would like it in West Virginia because it would bolster the Republican citizenry in that part of the state, right?
That's absolutely right. But, boy, you make a good point about, and Hoppy does make a good point in his column this morning, about some of the financial issues that would happen if we actually were able to bring these counties into the fold, such as we'd have to take on their debt. That was an issue that occurred between West Virginia and Virginia when we left the mothership back in 1863. There was even a federal case that made it all the way to the Supreme Court over that. In the case of these three counties, I talked to one lawmaker involved, a West Virginia lawmaker involved in these discussions. I think it's been estimated that the debt that we'd end up taking would amount to about $1.5 billion. Now, they seem to think that the economic output of those three counties would easily cover the cost of making those payments to pay off that debt. But, yeah, there's a lot of issues there. But there's a lot of similarities. They're very, very connected to the Eastern Panhandle. People go back and forth to work between Cumberland and Hagerstown, between Martinsburg, Romney, Mineral County, all these places along there. So there's a lot. And let's be honest, if you're going to the Eastern Panhandle from, say, my part of the state, you got to drive through those three counties. So there's a lot of relations and a lot of similarities between these three counties in that part of the state. So it would be a fit.
When my kids were living in Frederick and we were driving over there quite a good bit, you always knew when you hit the Maryland state line because the bumpy roads of West Virginia turned into nice, smooth roads in Maryland. I wonder if these counties have thought about how their roads might be handled if they become part of the mountain state.
That's a good question. There's a lot of considerations, and I have to wonder, a couple years ago there was an effort by West Virginia lawmakers to try to convince Frederick County, Virginia, to rejoin the state. At one point, they invited Berkeley, Jefferson, and Frederick County, Virginia to join West Virginia. Berkeley and Jefferson said yes. Frederick said no, and a couple years ago there was a resolution passed to say, hey, the invitation's still open if you want to come here. Nobody that I'm aware of was interested in Frederick County, where Winchester, Virginia is. They were happy to be part of Virginia. This is at least a little bit different, where now you've got people from a different state now asking, hey, if we start this process, you cool if we sleep over at your house? And, the answer seems to be from lawmakers, and we'll find out from Governor Jim Justice at 10 o'clock today, because he's going to speak on the matter, I presume. He's supportive. I know that the governor's office was roped into conversations this week about it. There's growing support for it, but whether it happens, well, there's a lot of that has to happen.
Well, we'll hear more about it. You'll be covering it, and we'll have it on Metro News, and the governor will be speaking, and we'll have more about it coming up as the day goes on. Hey, have a good weekend, Stephen. Get to work on that new house of yours, and we'll probably talk to you next week sometime.
Wish me luck. I'm moving in Saturday.
All right. Thanks a lot. Appreciate it. Stephen Adams from the Ogden newspaper chain. Yeah, and his wife just bought a new house in Charleston. They're moving into it this weekend. 9 o'clock, Watchdog Morning Show. ABC News is already in progress.
The Watchdog is FM 98.1, AM 1600 WKKX Wheeling, FM 97.7, AM 1370 WVLY Moundsville.
The ABC News is brought to you by Thomas Auto Centers, Mall Road, St. Clairsville. Get the best deal at Thomas Auto Centers.
Hospital in New Mexico.